compressor. I don't know if you can hear me. That thing's awfully loud. But we got it bolted to the floor. We got the rubber feet on it, all nine, and we're about halfway through the break-in process. So far, no problems with the electrical. This one seems to be working fine. And yeah, I think we're going to be good to go.
Alright, so yeah, we got our air compressor up and running finally. So the 220 works. Ran that thing for half an hour, which is what it calls for on the break-in procedure. And so now we have air in the shop. I got all the hoses and everything hooked up. So now I can pump up tires. I can blow dirt off of things. I can pressurize a cylinder. I can do all that stuff you need air to do. Run the sandblast cabinet. Run power air tools. So yeah, now that I have a fully operational garage, I'm really looking forward to getting into something else. But this time, let's get into diagnosing this MR2 and see if we can figure out what kind of shape it's in and what it's going to take to get it running.
Alright, we're back in the garage. This thing is starting to come around. It's looking a bit better now. It's pretty well cleaned up enough to start messing with it. And I think we're at the point where we need to. I think I need to get in this thing. I need to get that engine cover opened. And we need to figure out what we're going to do first as far as seeing if we can get this thing to run. But first, I got to eat my healthy snack. Ah, the sounds of country living. Got an airplane over there. Got sirens racing down the freeway, you know, quarter mile that away. Got a cow over here that won't shut up. Cicadas are buzzing, and the mockingbirds sound like those Saturn missile fireworks you light off that just go pew, pew, pew. Ah, country living, so quiet. Okay, so I thought it would be plenty safe to take a battery that's been sitting in a car for 13 years and see if it'll take a charge. So we'll see if that thing gets pregnant. Keep an eye on it, because if it starts swelling up, we're going to have to disconnect it. I don't want that thing exploding in the garage here. But if it does, I put it up at like chest level, so it'll spread around a little better. Alright, because I'm a dumbass, I'm going to go ahead and hook this thing up and see what happens. Oh, it looks pretty good down there. Well, you know what? I suppose I should at least check the oil first, right? There it is. It was around here somewhere. She is bone dry. Not an ounce of oil on it. Just one more check to make sure. Oh yeah, dry as a bone. Nothing on it whatsoever. You know, if I was serious about this thing, didn't mind putting the time into it, I'd go ahead and rip the valve cover off, take some of these, just the valve cover mostly, and at least have a look at the cams, maybe pour some oil down there to lubricate those before we try turning this thing over. Yeah, I figure I better check this air filter too before we do anything, because if this thing's all clogged up from like a rat's nest or something, it's not going to want to run. Yep, there's a mouse nest in it. Big old hole through the air filter. Hope you can see it from that angle. Well, apparently I can't not care. So, there we go. Now we can just set this aside. Right in your way. I think what I want to do now is pull the spark plug wires. Alright, so we got them numbered. I can go ahead and take them off of here now and just let them drop. Okay, make sure I'm not losing anything here. Besides my mind. Keep that handy, see how much debris we can keep out of the engine. Alright, now I get to these two nuts here, or bolts, I'm sorry. Alright, and we have a bunch of water in there. Well, that went way easier than I expected. I got almost every last bit of it out of there. And yes, these cute little chrome guys are factory. Somehow they're not totally rusted. So what's holding them on at this point is the little rubber washer things are probably stuck. These things are really stuck. And you know what? That's not uncommon, because the rubber that they use to seal gets oil on it and whatnot, and it gets hard as a rock. So generally you get them loose a little bit and you can spin them off, which is what I just did with that one. Alright, so there's one. Let's have a look, shall we? There we go. Alright. Got a light on? Yep. Alright, so here we are. I don't see anything ugly yet. Definitely dry in here. No surface rust on the cams, that's a good sign. Yeah, the drive gear looks fine. That's what she looks like inside. Pretty clean. I'm not disappointed in that. Alright, cool. Let's pour some oil in this thing. So I just realized I don't have any oil, so I'm going to have to go get some. Luckily it's not that far away, but it's about lunchtime too, so I'm going to go have lunch with the wife, grab some oil, and we'll get back on this thing when we get back. Alright, so the fact that it has no oil in it makes me think there's a massive leak somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and put a quart in, but I'm going to stop there. I don't want to put 4 quarts in and find them all on the floor, especially at $5 a piece. Okay, most of that went in the engine. Trying to get it on every lobe. Alright, so we're going to let that sit for 5-10 minutes, and then I'm going to look under the car again and see if I see any oil draining out, and if not, I'll go ahead and add some more oil to it. So we're getting close. As soon as I get some oil in it, we'll go ahead and try and turn it over, see if we can build some oil pressure. Also, because I found those rat's nests, I'm thinking I might need to take this air box off and make sure it's not full of rat's nest as well. Does that just come off, or do we gotta undo a clamp somewhere? There's a clamp! A clamp, I tell you! There we go. Yep, there are mouse droppings leading up to the mass airflow sensor. Alright, so I don't know how well you can see down in that hole. There's definitely mouse droppings in it. So I need to take that booty off of the mass airflow sensor and probably pop the mass airflow sensor out and check it as well. Alright, so we took the mass airflow sensor and it's pretty cruddy in there. Definitely got some critter droppings right in the opening here, and the flapper door was stuck, but I smacked it and it popped open. It still has good spring tension. A lot of corrosion for there. The aluminum is starting to oxidize. We'll stick this back on and we'll run it with just this hooked up, and we won't put the rest of the intake track back on it until we know if it fires or not. So this is the elbow between the trunk and the airflow meter, and the air filter and airflow meter, if you will. And as you can see, there were critters having a little highway in there, and they left a bunch of poo behind. So I'm going to take this off. I'll clean it at some point. Here, maybe. There we go. She's probably clean now. So the good news is, well, there's a cow saying hello. The neighbor is in the process of bulking up his herd. I should say beefing up his herd, shouldn't I? Pulled the mass airflow sensor out. You saw that. We cleaned it up, and I got a hook back in there. Without the elbow to the air box, and I'm just going to spray starting fluid in there to see if it fires, and then we'll do whatever we got to do about the nasty fuel if it does. But yeah, let me get these valve covers back on it, get this thing buttoned up a little bit, and see what she does. Now, I'm not trying to get this thing running so I go out and test drive it or anything, because I think it's going to need a lot more going over before I do anything like that. But I am trying to just see if it'll fire and run, and see if I can hear that rod knock this guy says was the reason he parked it. We'll know right away if it's got a rod knock, especially with low oil pressure. But we need to see the oil pressure come up, so we know it wasn't the engine wasn't oil starved at some point. because if that's the case, then there's probably going to be a lot more damage than just, you know, one rod starting to get a little loose. I'm going to double check the firing order before we try this, because there's something wrong here. Okay, I'm not going to try to put filling the gas, or putting gas in the tank right now. I know there's some sludgy, nasty stuff in there. So I think what I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to hook the battery up, make sure nothing catches on fire, make sure I'm recording. I am, okay. Yeah, that's basically where I'm going to go with this. I'm just going to tiptoe into it. We should be good to go. Let me hook up this positive. There we go. And I guess we'll hook up the negative now. As soon as I find it. Oh, here it is. Alright, I heard something click. That's good. Alright, let me put a key in it. Let's see what happens when I turn it to the run position. Alright, cooling fans are running. I didn't hear a fuel pump. They work! They work! Noise! That sounded good. See if we build any oil pressure, huh? Alright, I apologize for the buzzer, but I only have so many hands. So let's see if we can build any oil pressure cranking this thing over. Oh, that does not sound good. Bang, 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 bang. Not building any oil pressure either. That almost sounds like a piston hitting a valve or something. Could be a busted timing chain. I was gonna say I was gonna turn it over and see if the cams were moving, but I put the stupid valve covers back on. Cam covers, I guess, technically. Yeah, that's not promising at all. That sucks. That really does not sound good. Alright, so it's not building oil pressure, or the gauge isn't working. I should probably also pull the plugs to make sure we're getting spark. I'll do that first. That's the easiest thing to do. Also, the firing order was incorrect. I've got it right now. Okay, so a few more things to diagnose here. To see if we can get this thing to spark or light off. There is a pretty bad clink going on in the engine as it's turning over. If the timing chain's broken, for instance, it could be banging against a valve every time it comes around. Or if there's a bent valve, that could be doing it as well. We'll get to doing a compression test at some point if we have to. It's probably not a bad idea to just go ahead and do that. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and just test for spark. God, that sounds awful. Pretty sure this motor's no good. Alright, I'm going to watch this real quick. Alright, so I'm going to pop this distributor I'm going to pop this distributor cap off. And I'm going to check that first. I got one out. You guys are having fun. This is the buffoon man working on his car video. Well, I am working on a car video and working on my car on video. See? No matter what you say, it can be taken more than one way. Alright, let's see how awful this looks. And the verdict is... I don't know. Oh, good Lord. Damn it. This is fun, right? I reach down in there where that snake was last seen. Yeah, that's great. Alright. Got my light back. Yeah, that's not great. It's not great at all. Shouldn't be enough to keep it from running. Let's see what the rotor looks like. I believe that is also screwed on. Nope, it pops right off. Oh, don't drop it. Okay. Rotor looks fine. I'm going to put you guys back over here and I'm going to see if that rotor's turning when I'm cranking the engine. Because if it's not, that would indicate a broken timing belt as well. Okay, guys, watch that rotor for me. It's this guy right here. Alright, so that's spun. I don't believe we have a broken timing belt. So give me a minute and put this cap and rotor back on and pull the spark plug. So let's see if we got any spark coming out of this bad boy. Which is done by grabbing this here thing, sticking this here thing in it, and then we'll lay that right there so it gets a ground. Alright, so no sparks. The next logical thing to do is grab the coil wire and see if we're getting any spark out of the coil itself. I'm going to say that because the coil wire is not even hooked up, that might be part of the problem. Alright, let's try that again. Before I do anything else, now that I know I'm getting spark, and I know I wasn't before, I'm going to go ahead and flood this engine with some starting fluid, if I can. There we go. And let's see if it even hiccups. Well, sure acted like it wanted to do something. There we go. And maybe it can suck in that starting fluid a little better. Nope, nothing. I guess it's time to start pulling spark plugs out and looking for bad cylinders. Alright, so when I was turning this thing over to see if I could get it to crank, it was making some hellacious noises. Something's definitely wrong inside of this motor, mechanically speaking. So what I'm going to do first, I think, is I'm going to go through and I'm going to pull all 4 of these spark plugs out. I already checked the last one here, the number 4 cylinder, when I was checking for spark, and it looked pretty good. So I'm going to pull these other 3 out and see if I see any damage on the spark plug that could explain that noise we're hearing. Pulling number 1 right now. I don't see any mechanical damage. There's definitely rust from water getting down in there around the plug, but that's not in the cylinder. Right now I'm not trying to read the plugs or anything. I'm just trying to see if like the electrodes bashed off one of them or something from parts rolling around inside the cylinder. No damage there. Alright, that electrode looks different. Oh, that cylinder was full of water. Okay. But I was looking for an electrode that was bashed to shit, or a spark plug that was destroyed from metal pieces hitting it. And I did not find that. We're going to do some diagnostics. I don't know how far to take this because, you know, I'm not keeping the car. I just got it to see if we could get it running, and hoping that maybe when he said it had a rod knock, it was something else that was easily fixed. But I'm starting to think it's actually worse than a rod knock, and the engine might be toast. So, I grab a flashlight. I'm going to look down at these cylinders and see if I see anything obvious. Alright, let's go ahead and do a compression test on this thing. I hooked up my compression tester. Sorry it took me 20 minutes to find the damn thing, but I moved. Stuff got thrown in drawers it didn't belong in. Anyway, one of the things we got to do here is we got to crack open this throttle. You always want to run your compression test with the throttle open. Why is that not moving far enough? There we go. It was stuck open a little ways. Alright. Let's figure out how we can do this. Okay, the throttle's not all the way open, but it's halfway open. Alright, so we got open throttle, we got all the spark plugs out of it. Let's go ahead and get this thing spinning over and see what we end up with. You guys heard that clacking and clanking. Yeah, that's a good one. We got 160 on there. Alright, let's get to the next one. Alright, about what's that? 175, 165 on that one. Alright. That's good. Only 5 pounds of difference from cylinder 1 to 2. Now let's get number 3 hooked up. I can't believe that battery still works. Uh-oh! Well, that's not good. Let's make sure that the compression fitting, or the fitting for the spark plug there that the compression tester is hooked to, let's make sure that's tight and making a good seal. and then try it again, because that's a no bueno right there. I cleaned up a little bit around the spark plug hole. It had a lot of crud. I was thinking maybe that was keeping the O-ring from sealing. So let's try it again, see if we get a different reading. All right, so that cylinder is definitely dead. Let's do number 4. All right, cylinder 4, here we go. I expect this one to be normal. I think 3 is going to be our problem child. Ooh, another low one. So 3 and 4 both seem to have no compression. We'll talk about it in a minute. Let me get in front of the camera.
Alright, so let's look at what we know for sure so far. All we know for sure is that we had good compression in number 1 and number 2. We had terrible compression in number 3, and we had even less compression in number 4. Now, we also know that it's making a banging noise. When I listen closer, it's not just going bang, bang, bang. It's going bang, 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 bang. So I'm thinking that's actually a rod making that noise. And so I think what's happening is, here's your rod end. I think the crankshaft is going pushing and then pulling and then pushing and then pulling because it's loose in there. It's going bang, 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 bang every time it goes 180 degrees. So that's what I think is happening. I think it's actually a loose rod in there, like the bearing's completely worn out, or the rod is stretched, or it may have even broken a rod bolt and it's only bolted on one side. A lot of things to consider there. The reason I don't think it's a valve getting touched by a piston, like maybe the timing belt skipped a tooth or two or something and it's opening at the wrong times. The fact that we had good compression on cylinder 1 and 2 and we're getting spark and the rotor's turning and all that tells me that the timing belt's probably fine. But what I think's going on is we have a blown head gasket between number 3 and number 4. And what's happening there is it's allowing the pressure from, let's say, number 3 to escape through the head gasket into cylinder number 4 and then out cylinder number 4's valves, because they would be opening at a different time than number 3's valves would. And so it can build a little pressure. The point being, I think that's what's going on. I think that the head gasket is blown between number 3 and number 4. Now, it's not building oil pressure from what I can tell. I need to do more diagnostic. I need to pop the valve covers back off. I'm sorry, I need to pop the cam covers back off and take a look in there and crank the engine over and see if it's actually sending oil to the top of the engine. If I'm getting oil to the top of the engine, then I know I have a good oil pump. And another thing it'll tell me is that I don't have a spun main bearing. If you spin a main bearing, what it does is it takes the hole for the oil, the main oil feed hole that's in the engine block, the bearing spins, and now it blocks off that hole, because there's a hole in the bearing that lines up with the hole in the block, and when the bearing spins, the holes don't line up anymore, and you block off the flow of oil at that main. So spun main bearing does make engines blow up. He parked it because it was knocking, right? It was making that bang, bang, bang noise like we're hearing at low speeds. Now, how it would have still been running with 3 and 4 compression like it is, I don't know. It's half the motor isn't working. The question is, how long did it run with that knock? And did it starve for oil? Is that what caused the rod to fail? Maybe the oil pump quit working. The car does have 200,000 miles on it. So if the oil pump quit working, then the bearings would start to go, the engine would get hot from not being, because the oiling system is actually part of, has a lot to do with cooling the engine. It's not just the water, the oil actually does cool the engine as well. So if you don't have any oil pressure and you keep running the engine, it will get hot quick. It'll wipe out the bearings on the rods and the mains. But man, it would have to be running a while to get hot enough to blow a head gasket. I can't imagine that the bottom end would stay together through that much heat. So I'm really confused as to why it has a blown head gasket if it had a rod knock. So I don't know what's going on with this engine. And the only way to know would be to dig into it further, which I wasn't necessarily planning on doing. I didn't buy this car with the intention of spending a lot of hours on it and putting a bunch of time and effort and even money into it for parts and things like that. I was hoping for something I could clean up. Maybe we could get it running with a rod knock. I assumed the guy, was telling me the truth and it just had a rod knock. And if that was the case, then, I could go ahead and just sell the car with a rod knock, because at least they could start it, hear the rod knock, you know, and see that everything else works. But now I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to think about this for a minute. Probably owe it to you guys to finish the project and to keep working on it. But I'm going to think about that a little more, because I really want to get back on a couple of our other projects. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'll make the MR2 a longer term project. I mean, you guys like the MR2? Do you want to see me back in the S10? I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'm leaning towards maybe letting the drag car go to free up a little cash, and then keeping the MR2 around and see if I can get that running again. If it's just a matter of, like for instance, if it's just a bad rod bearing and a head gasket and the oil pump actually works, or you know, the crank isn't scored from heat, that kind of thing. If the crank still has a nice polish on it, and it's just a matter of replacing an oil pump, let's say, and swapping out the bearings, then maybe we'll try and get it running. So I don't know. I'll think about it for the next video. For now, hey, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm going to go agonize over this for a week, and then I'll tell you guys what we're doing next time. All right. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.